Alrighty, so this is the lab for the double replacement precipitation lab. And so we have 6 different solutions, and we're going to mix them together, and we're going to see which ones form a precipitate and which ones do not. Before this, you should have gone through and predicted using your solubility table which ones would form a precipitate and which ones weren't. This is just the observation part. So sort of on your paper it says in the lab, and then I'll talk about the post-lab questions at the end. So we have 6 different solutions. We have copper 2 sulfate, we have lead 2 nitrate, we have calcium nitrate, we have sodium phosphate, we have potassium chloride, and we have sodium hydroxide. And so we'll just go in order of the paper, and so I'll just put them in, and then we'll do observations, and then you'll be able to see if you missed it in class. And so this is copper 2 sulfate. Copper is almost always blue, and so I'll put them in here, and then I'll show you what you should have seen. So there's copper sulfate, and then we have sodium phosphate is the next one. So I'm going to add that in, and then we'll see what happens. So far it's a clear blue. You can probably see that, and then I'll add a couple bits, and then if you can see that, it got cloudy. So that is a precipitate. So one of the products would have been not soluble on the solubility table, so that is what just precipitated. That you need to figure out on your own. And then the next one is copper 2 sulfate again, and then we add it with potassium chloride. So potassium chloride is this little clear one, and so we put a little squirt in there, and so again it's just clear blue. We add that in there. There's not much. I'm going to add a little bit more because I'm not sure if that's right. And it's also because, nope. Alrighty, so that one didn't give me a reaction. So that may or may not be right. You need to tell me if my predictions. Some of these weren't cooperating in class, so we'll, hopefully they'll see. And then the next one is copper 2 sulfate, and then lead 2 nitrate. So we have lead 2 nitrate. So that is clearly a reaction. If you can see it, it's like a white, like powdery liquid kind of. The fourth one is copper 2 sulfate again. And then we are adding in sodium hydroxide. So we have sodium hydroxide. So add that in. So we have a squirt of that. And so again, it's just clear blue. And then if you can see, it's like chunky whitish, bluish stuff. So those are the first 4. Then the next one is lead nitrate. So just the lead nitrate from before. So I'm going to add that in the second little one, and then to that I'm going to add sodium hydroxide. So sodium hydroxide. So lead nitrate's clear, and then if you see that, it made a little white cloudiness. The next one is lead 2 nitrate. Just put it right above it. And then potassium chloride. So we have our potassium chloride. So it's just clear. And I add that in. And you have to wait on this one a teensy bit. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but maybe you will. It's real kind of cloudy. The more it's, oh, there, that's getting better. The more it sits, the better it gets. So that's potassium chloride. And then we have lead 2 nitrate, the third one, and then sodium phosphate. And then sodium phosphate. So we have our clear, then we're going to add this clear, and then that is an obvious reaction. So that's a positive, good. And then the last 3, so we have calcium nitrate. And so we have, I'll put it over here, it's just clear. And then we're going to add sodium phosphate. So we have sodium phosphate. And that gave us a cloudy. You see that? And then the next one is calcium nitrate again. So just clear. We're going to add potassium chloride. So we're going to add our potassium chloride. So we'll add that in. And then that didn't give me anything. It's this one underneath my finger, this one. Kind of hard to see, but it's just clear. I'm gonna let that sort of look at it in a second maybe. And then the last one is calcium nitrate, and then sodium hydroxide. Let's see, sodium hydroxide, here it is. So I'll put that in. And then that gives us a cloudy, if you can see that on there. So the only one that this might not have worked on was that second one. So copper sulfate and potassium chloride. So if your prediction came out different than your observation, that nothing happened, that is okay. So give you a little picture. So these were the copper sulfates, these were the lead nitrates, and then these were the calcium nitrates. So I sort of went on the paper, I went in order. So so then on the post-lab questions, it says write the correct balanced chemical equation for each of the combination with the appropriate symbols necessary. If you got them right at the beginning, so if you said that they should precipitate and then they did precipitate, and you have your coefficients and your subscripts and all that done, you do not have to write them again. Only if you got them wrong. There's no point in writing something if you got it correct the first time. That doesn't make sense. And then number 2 is talking about if you had a nitrate compound with an unknown cation. So your nitrate is your negative or your anion in the solution. So say you put any positive with it, if you look at your solubility chart, that's going to give you something that's soluble. So I want you to look at your solubility chart and then say which other ones may be not, or which may be soluble. So it says after combining with many different solutions, you are unable to produce a precipitate, which means all of your products were soluble. And so I want you to look at your list and then some possible cations that could give these results and explain why. I don't expect you to get it completely and totally right. I just want you to try. And I want you to think if I gave you an unknown, which I will, that you could figure out maybe what it is. So thanks.